Welcome back to the Not Important Gaming Podcast with Jeremy, Reed, and Derek. I am Jeremy.
I am Derek.
And I'm Reed.
And, we've got a decent amount to talk about this week. We've got, EA versus Belgium. We got that criminal investigation that's going on. We have Nintendo's earthquake incident that happened, which has caused them to delay the release of Nintendo Direct, and we're also going to be talking about Spider-Man. The release, I believe, was last week. But before we get started, what's going on with everybody?
I feel like there's a lot, but I can't think of anything.
No, that's fair.
I will say that I've been getting more and more hyped about Artifact. That game looks so good.
Yeah, I had a look at it. I don't know. Still not really quite my speed, I don't think. I don't know that I'm ever going to get really hyped about a card game, honestly.
That's fair.
Is it that there's like new details on it though?
It's more that I've been watching a lot of gameplay and like podcasts and stuff. Just about like basically the game on the outset seems pretty cool, but when you get into like the little details, it's like a really interesting and very strategic game that I'm just really fascinated with.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been looking at quite a bit of Call of Duty Black Ops, their Blackout Battle Royale. A lot of streamers have been streaming that lately. It's been kind of blowing up on Twitch, at least like, first week stuff. Not sure how it's going to drop off, but
apparently it's not the worst.
I've heard some very bold claims about that, actually. I heard somebody go as far as to say that they think that it might be what kills PUBG.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, at least visually, it looks like it plays. I'm seeing a lot of people draw parallels to that in PUBG specifically.
Okay.
Yeah. So for better or for worse, I guess. But I guess in terms of just kind of like what's been going on this week, anyways, like mainly just like work and studying for the finals. I did get a chance to finish up Spider-Man for the PS4, so that's kind of good going into this week's topic. So I'll have some stuff to say about that for sure.
Yeah, I got the chance.
What have you guys been up to?
Yep, I got the chance to finish up Spider-Man as well. I also, first time, I got OBS to actually record a game of Rainbow Six Siege and not bug the hell out, which is something I've been doing, trying to get done for weeks. So I've got that on the live video today. Other than that, I mean, much like you, it's been a lot of studying for finals and just a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good to have things like that.
Yeah. All right. Let's get right into it. You guys want to get started with Spider-Man since
man, that game looks so good.
It is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm getting it tomorrow to play on my roommate's PS4, but I've watched a lot of gameplay.
It's absolutely worth it. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I actually I beat the main story a couple days ago, and I've been working on kind of just doing unlocks and stuff like that. It's been an absolute blast. I just think it's really impressive. They absolutely nailed swinging, which is something that I don't know. It's just really strange that it seems like developers have a hard time like nailing the feeling you get when you're swinging from web to web. Like it's
very hard to like get an awkward swing transition. You know what I mean? Like going from either swinging to like running up a building or running along the side of a building. It's almost seamless. Like every single time you attempt to do it.
Yeah. The only issues I ever ran into is occasionally I would have like and it would usually be either I had to intentionally induce it, or like once in a blue moon I would have something where I would hit a building at a weird angle. And Spider-Man would just like smack into the side of the building.
Fall down, yeah.
He wouldn't fall down, but he'd just be hanging on to the web with his face rubbing against the wall.
Yeah.
But like I said, that was like, it would happen either once in a blue moon, or I would have to like intentionally try to find that angle.
The most ridiculous thing that I've noticed so far is actually when you're fighting enemies on the rooftop and you web them up and you do like a web throw or like some form of combination that like when they're webbed up throws them off the building.
Yep.
Instead of just falling straight down to the ground and landing on the pavement, they'll just kind of like they'll be headed down at like a certain angle and then will automatically just zip themselves over to the nearest building or structure and get stuck to it. You know, it's just like
I saw
it's a really
I saw that for the first time today, and actually, if you pay close attention, you can actually see like a web shoot out of them. So the theory that I've heard other people say, and I don't know if this is confirmed, but it's that Spidey actually he has a device that when he knocks them off of the roof, he sticks it to them, which causes them to zip to that nearest wall and stick to it.
Yeah, no, it just I guess on the face of it, it looks really awkward. But yeah, if there is kind of like an underlying meaning behind it or a reason as to why that happens, then
yeah, I think it's
I guess I just
mostly
haven't really noticed.
because Spider-Man doesn't kill people.
You know what this game kind of reminds me of a little bit?
What's that?
Crackdown.
I can
Just
see
like
that.
in a big, giant open world with a bunch of stuff to collect, and like you have the mission stuff, but the rest of the world is like so big and so entertaining to explore that you're not always wanting to go to the mission. Like, game outside of the missions has a lot of legs.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was super impressed with the level of Easter eggs that they put in that game. Like, there's so many like fine details that Insomniac just got right about it. It's actually really impressive. Like, I didn't expect that level of attention to detail going into it. Because when I got it, it was just kind of like, you know, I assumed more or less it was going to be, you know, a good story kind of based on, based on the comic books loosely for the most part. I knew that Insomniac did say that they were going to be putting their own kind of twist on a lot of the lore, but it wasn't going to deviate too far. But I mean, yeah, there's like certain things, like one thing in specific, it was like, I remember when Dr. Octavius, when you were meeting him back at the lab and he was developing the neural interface that ended up, you know, being kind of like the big pet project that they were working towards, like for the prosthetic legs that he ended up getting. It was like you met him, that he called you the day before when there was no development of that at all, and then the very next day he had a fully functioning set of the legs that he, you know, that everybody knows he has it, you know, Doc Ock. And there was kind of a theory I remember ended up reading, I think it was on I think GameSpot had covered it, either GameSpot or IGN, where they said a good theory as to why he was able to get that much progress done on the prosthetics over the course of like one night is because when you go into the lab the very next day, you notice that there's a mug and like a couple of other things that are there in the lab that was never there before, and it has AIM written on it. And AIM is in the Marvel Universe the organization that's behind like MODOK. They're like a very like tech heavy. They're known for like creating biological just science related projects that like mutate people, you know. So it's like
Okay.
that was kind of a good theory as to why he even had those legs in the first place. It's because, you know, or why it went haywire. So yeah, no, really cool thing, and especially like the ending scenes with you know, not to spoil, but you know, it's definitely a good game.
Yeah,
Attention
no,
to detail, so.
it's one thing I did really appreciate was it was very character driven, which is something I didn't really expect from a Spider-Man game, to be honest. I was expecting, you know, there's gonna be a lot of we go out, beat up some bad guys. They'll kind of pay lip service to the fact that Peter Parker is a thing and he has family members, but there's not gonna be much else. But no, it was very character driven, very story driven, which I personally was a big fan of.
Yeah, in fact, they do the whole like the irises on the suit, which makes him like really expressive. One of the few complaints that I've heard about the game is that he's actually more expressive and involved and like jokey when he's in the suit, but like that Peter Parker, like outside of it, is maybe like, or is quite a lot less like emotional and energetic and entertaining.
I mean, I can see what you're talking about, but I guess I personally don't have a problem with that because for all intents and purposes, Spider-Man and Peter Parker have two different personalities. Not in the sense that they're like two different people. They have very similar personalities, but like when Peter Parker puts on the mask, he adopts this persona that's nothing like Peter Parker, who's quiet, who's nerdy, who doesn't do well in social situations. But as soon as he puts on the mask, he adopts this very outgoing and social persona of Spider-Man. So I guess I don't necessarily have a problem with that, with that interpretation of him. But I can at least see I can at least see the base for that thought process. But ultimately, I guess the main reason I want to talk about this is because, I mean, obviously, everybody and their mom knows that this is a fantastic game. And the reason I want to talk about it is I think this kind of I'm hoping this is going to be a wake up call to Disney to say that you can go with companies other than EA, companies that are willing and dedicated to making good products, as opposed to EA's their quick cash grab schemes that they have, like with Battlefront.
Right.
I'm hoping this is going to be they're going to see this, and they're going to see the money that's being pulled in with this, because this game broke God of War's first week sales.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it had 4 times in Asia.
No, this game
was like
sold like hotcakes.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 times global sales overall by the end of the first week. It was crazy.
And this game might very well, it's on track right now to be the best-selling game of the year. Only time will tell, and I think it's got a lot of heavy-hitting competitors, but it at least has the potential to be so.
The future outlook on the sales is looking pretty promising.
I don't know how well they'll be able to handle it. But when you look at how poorly Battlefront 2 sold, and I mean how poorly pre-orders are going for Battlefield 5, I don't know that EA and Disney's contract is long for this world. Who knows? I mean, they could. Disney could completely, be like, nope, we have our contract. We're not going to void it. Sucks to be all of you. EA is going to be making Star Wars games forever. But I don't know. If there's ever a clear wake-up call, I think this is it.
I mean, there was that. There were some rumblings at like the beginning of the year, in that EA was on the verge of like losing their licensing agreement for Star Wars,
which they should have at that point in time. I mean, the fact that Disney had to step in for the Battlefront 2, and they had to look EA dead in the eyes and go, "Stop it! Stop this madness!" Like,
shit! I didn't realize this. EA bought Respawn last year. At the end of last
really?
year.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah. Well, never mind. Sorry, continue. I saw this.
EA is already on thin ice. They know it, but they're not acting like it. And I think, like I said, I think the Spider-Man is kind of the. It very well may end up being the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to this.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, I don't know. If EA had a brain, they wouldn't be doing half the shit that they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I'm not going to hold out hope.
But there's more on Disney than it is on EA at this point. I mean, the ball has been in their court regarding this for a while.
Though, I mean, Disney is, like, a very, like, sort of, like, corporate-minded, and so is, like, EA. So I could see how they kind of, like, just came together, and that kind of just happened. But I don't know.
It's funny, I actually.
No, it's just that if money is kind of the bottom line of it all, and like having better financial quarters, and it's like looking at what Insomniac has done in developing this game, if I were Disney, I would just, or if I were, an executive at Disney, I would be looking at this as reason to go with Insomniac, is trying to like, do, a further sequel. But I mean, they did mention the creative developer or the creative director at Insomniac, Brian, I think Intihar. I think he was talking to IGN last week, but he said that there's like nothing to announce right now regarding a sequel, but that they obviously wanted to keep you engaged with the Spider-Man universe, and that's why like they're going to be starting out with 3 drops of DLC. I think it was going to be like month to month, like back to back. But they're not just going to be like activities in the city. It's going to be a full story. So, that's more or less, saying that for as good as the figures are right now with the sales figures that we have going into like week 2 and week 3, this is all like the big DLC that we're going to be receiving here really soon. And there's actually kind of a train of thought of people who are thinking that with the new Venom movie that's going to be coming out here in the next month or two, that the very next drop of DLC is going to be Symbiote. Oh, is it? I thought it was.
Did you hear the news about that though? Or no, maybe you're right. It is next month. But you did hear the news about it being PG-13.
No, I didn't hear that.
Mm-hmm. They came out this week that it's going to be rated PG-13.
Yeah, I don't get why they would make a decision like that. It's Venom.
Probably because the reason that it was given, at least from what I saw, was that if they're going to do a crossover with Spider-Man, they kind of have to keep it PG-13.
I guess, but I mean, it could be a separate movie. You could still do a crossover with Spider-Man that is PG-13. I mean, you have to look at, Venom is maybe not as beloved as Deadpool, but Venom is definitely an iconic villain.
But we won't see probably like we might see like a minor Deadpool cameo, but like a real full-on crossover.
No, I'm more just talking about like you have to, taking into account how well Deadpool did, because Deadpool, both of the movies sold like crazy.
Oh yeah.
So there's obviously a market for rated R superhero movies.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think this movie might have better benefited from being rated R, but I understand why they might want to do that.
Dude, if they drop Carnage in this new Venom movie, I'm gonna flip shit.
I think he's supposed to be like, because in the trailer they show the yellow symbiote, so he's gonna be fighting other symbiotes, I guess. We've already seen that in the trailer. Yeah. So. It might even.
Some people were thinking about. I guess they were trying to tie like maybe the release of the Venom movie with kind of like the PR of dropping this first DLC for Spider-Man PS4, and that the DLC would be like Venom or just symbiote related. So who knows? But I don't. That would have to be pretty soon. I haven't heard any word yet about the DLC dropping. So.
Yeah, no, it certainly looks. I'm a little disappointed here this week, PG-13. But jumping back on topic here,
it is October 5th, by the way.
It's October 5th. Awesome.
It's when it comes out. Yep. Gotcha. Spider-Man's awesome.
Spider-Man's fantastic.
And also, I think maybe one of the biggest reasons behind that. Well, there are two things. One, Insomniac is obviously a great studio. They're very creative. But whenever a studio like this comes in to work on an IP, a lot of times the owners of that IP are very, very sensitive. And from what I understood is the people who worked on Spider-Man basically said that because Sony's support basically enabled them to make this game. That if they ever had any ideas of how they wanted to do stuff, they just said, yeah, sure, do it. And they were not very restrictive.
I think under Disney, Marvel is I think they have higher standards for the video games. But I know you guys remember there was a point in time where all of the games all the Marvel related
what Marvel video games
were basically sold based off of the movie. Well, they were typically sold based on the movie. So like when Iron Man, first came out in theaters, when Iron Man 2 came out in theaters, the Incredible Hulk, the Avengers movies, it's like they always wanted to sell a game to complement that or to like help with the PR, but it always was just completely like overshadowed by the movie. They didn't put much of a budget into it at all. They never really cared about.
I remember there being an Iron Man video game way back, but I don't even recall any other video games. Definitely no tie-in video games.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
no,
there's
Exactly.
Iron Man
The
2.
fact that you don't remember it speaks volumes because
No,
they
I'm
were
saying I
this-
don't know if there was any because there was one for Iron Man 2, and there might have been one for the original Incredible Hulk, like the very first
Oh no,
one.
yeah, no, there was, and
There
there
was.
was there was Hulk Ultimate Destruction back on the GameCube. I mean, there's been a lot of Marvel games that have come out, but they've all been really low budget. You know, I think the best
Whoa.
Marvel game that I can honestly, well, a lot of them.
Hold on. I know you didn't just call Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction low budget. That game
It was really fucking good,
that
dude.
game
I had a
was
lot of
amazing.
gameplay with that. Yeah, I mean, it was completely destructible world. I will give it that.
Dude, you could make boxing gloves out of cars. Like, what is not good about that game?
Yeah, yeah, you were able to just like chuck light poles into buildings and shit. It was,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, no, it was really good. But no, it seems like maybe Disney has more of an eye on trying to budget these games like really well going into like next gen. They're trying to do it AAA, whereas I feel like you really didn't have that before. I think a lot of people I know with this game specifically were drawing a lot of parallels to Spider-Man 2 for the PS2 because it was kind of the last game that we had, sadly, as a Spider-Man game anyways, that was truly like open world web swinging to the extent that I think the fans wanted. And that was, back on the PlayStation 2. So it's been a while, and it's a long time coming. I think now that Marvel's under new leadership, well, not now since Disney acquired Marvel, it's I think they're attempting to actually do it pretty big. So this is it's good news, but I hope that they don't ruin this by allowing companies like EA who don't get to come in and bastardize these games that could have a lot going for them. So
Absolutely, and I think that's a good way to segue into our next topic. EA actually they are in a bit of hot water right now, are they not?
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, not good for EA, but
no, maybe it was good for them because maybe they'll learn their fucking lesson. You
it
heard
doesn't
it. Get them
sound
where it
like
hurts.
it. Doesn't sound like they are. Right now, it sounds
At
like
least not
they're
yet.
fighting this tooth and nail.
Dude, we need to break EA, shatter them into little bitty pieces, and then try to make something out of the ashes, man.
Man, you're getting real Viking there, man.
Dude, they've killed so many fucking gaming companies, like just by buying them and then fucking milling them for their money and then running them into the ground. I mean, they just got like a wake of, dead development studios in their like.
Oh yeah, no, they. God, you sent me that meme forever ago.
Yeah, it's on the Discord still.
Yeah, there it is. Pop EA.
And there's like one for like a million different, you know what I mean?
Oh
It's
yeah.
keeps coming
Yeah.
back around every time they buy. That's why I was kind of like shocked what I mentioned earlier when they bought Respawn, because it's like Respawn's a pretty good company. At least I thought. But
No, they are. They absolutely are.
and now they're in bed with the devil.
It's a dangerous game they're playing for sure. But yeah, Derek, you want to go ahead and give us the rundown of what's going on though?
Right, sure. So, for anybody who doesn't know, EA is under criminal investigation right now by Belgium over the FIFA loot boxes. And so, I guess to preface this, back in April, the Belgian Gaming Commission, which is more or less the ESRB of Belgium, they're kind of the regulatory body that oversees the agent content laws, or ratings about gaming. They looked at 4 huge titles from EA, which were Battlefront 2, FIFA 18, Overwatch, and CS:GO, and found that with the exception of Battlefront 2, all of them were in violation of the country's gambling legislation. And the concern, I think, that the Belgian authority kind of like monetization model is that it could influence addictive behavior in minors. The Belgian Minister of Justice, I think his name is Koen Geens, I hope I'm saying that right, deemed that loot boxes were illegal and demanded they be removed from FIFA 18, Overwatch, and CSGO, or, quote, risk a prison sentence up to 5 years or a fine of up to 800,000 euros. So it seems like Belgium as a country, they're really cracking down on this. They see the loot box exploitation for exactly what it is. EA said that they were willing to discuss another resolution with the Belgian Gaming Commission, but also felt that they didn't believe their product to be considered gambling. Stated, quote, "We strongly believe that our games are developed and implemented ethically and lawfully around the world and take these responsibilities very seriously." So a little bit of, mouth or lip service, from EA. I don't think anybody believes that shit, but, nonetheless, that was their statement, the official statement at the time. Following this decision, the authorities in Belgium, however, from their decision, Blizzard, Valve, and 2K Games all disabled loot boxes for their products in the Belgian market, which that's their law there, right? EA was the only one that chose not to, and as a result, the company is now subject of criminal investigation by the Brussels Public Prosecutor's Office. Which, if they find merit in the investigation, it's going to take EA to court. So they've just been kind of, I guess, sticking to their guns about this, like being very ignorant about what their product is and about what they're doing. And yeah, kind of like you said, fighting this tooth and nail. And it looks like there is an impending court session that is going to result from this. But it's just kind of weird because, like, okay, a question that I have though is like why they felt that if the main concern, and this is like, I guess to kind of play devil's advocate, like why they felt like Belgium, if they felt that the main concern was that the loot boxes were a form of gambling and that can influence addiction of minors, that was like the main reason as to why they were cracking down on it. That the Belgian Gaming Commission back in April felt that, I guess, Battlefront 2, which is a game that, like, at least in the States, the ESRB considers is fitted for teenagers, is not in violation of their gambling legislation, but CSGO, a game that is clearly meant for a mature audience, however it is. It's like, why would you be in terms of gambling, if you're saying it's illegal for the reasons of teenagers and not necessarily for adults? They're targeting the mature games that are doing loot boxes, but they're not targeting games, or at least Battlefront 2, like they stated. So I don't know. That was just kind of a question that I had. It seemed a little inconsistent, but yeah,
maybe they can't get enough evidence on those, and so it's like they're gonna push forward with what they have. I'm not sure. That's just conjecture.
Yeah, that could be the case. I don't know. This whole thing, at least on EA's part, they're playing this just really poorly. It's and I hope that they do get taken to court, because at this point, they've had an out. They were given an out. I think even the Belgian Gaming, the Belgian Gaming Authority, or the Belgian Gaming Commission, they had given an idea. I can't remember what it was, but they had a solution to this for the gaming companies that they felt were kind of in violation of their gambling laws. I forgot what they thought that it should be, the game should be marked, like on the box that it has gambling included, kind of like how the ESRB will mark like cartoon violence or mild language or something like that right underneath the E, or on the back of the box, that it just states that there's gambling. But it's like and that would have appeased them, but EA just doesn't really want to budge on this, so it's kind of hard to say what's going to go for, what's going to happen from here.
Yeah. Now I'm going to sound a little hypocritical here, or maybe a little counterintuitive, and definitely I'm going to be maybe mentioning some double standarding, but one thing that is kind of a little bit of a concern is that Belgium's loot box laws go farther than anybody else's. And I don't know if I necessarily 100% agree with them. Because they basically, like, they want to outlaw even like Overwatch's loot box system. Which I feel like, I don't think loot boxes in general should be illegal. Or at least kind of like put to task as far as like maybe Belgium wants to, or even, I understand the argument that it is kind of gambling, but it feels like almost separate from that. I mean, I don't know. Like in gambling, like you have a chance of like not getting anything in return. But with loot box, it's like a pack of trading cards. You know what I mean? It's like you're guaranteed to get something at the end of it. I think my major issue with loot boxes, I think they're oftentimes exploitive. Like what I almost had for my subject tonight was like the NBA 2K19 situation, which the fans of that are just near rioting because there was a lot of upset fans last year about those loot boxes, and how basically you had to like grind. It was like, you know, EA's Battlefront. You had to grind several games to basically get like a haircut, let alone get stuff that actually affected the play of your game, like to build a good team to be competitive online. You had to like grind for hundreds of games, or, you know, just plop down that $50 or $60 to just get the guaranteed stuff that you want. But now it's like on this latest version, they not only still have that system in there, but the copy that they gave to the reviewers, they basically gave all the reviewers like big XP bonuses. And then when the game was finally released, not only did they not have the XP bonus for like the regular game, but they also like dialed back the XP gain. So it's like you had to grind even more, which further encourages people to buy the loot boxes. And to me, that's just like, it's predatory, because it's like you're basically saying, in order to have fun with this game, you basically have to continue to pay us. And when on the outset they're like, hey, come buy our game, you know, it's like a whole fun game, you don't need to worry, you know what I mean? And so it's like if they're going to do that, they need to make it clear on the outset, which then makes people say, oh, is it really worth buying this game for $60 when I'm going to have to pay $60 more? You know?
Yeah, I think having it, I think the idea that Belgium proposed of having, you know, the fact that gambling is within this game stated clearly on the box, you know, kind of like, I mean, that's just kind of marketing 101 or business 101, is that, you know, whatever is going to be inside of the content of the box has to be on the label. It has to. You know, you cannot have something not identified that is included within it. And that's why, you know, the ESRB is a thing. That's why the Belgian Gaming Commission is a thing, is because they have to discuss the content of the game fully and transparently to give people a good idea as to what they're purchasing. But I mean, to kind of piggyback on your point, because I will say this, you know, gaming or gambling has in the form of loot boxes anyways, that monetization system has existed in gaming since the early to mid 2000s. I mean, it's been in the games for quite a while, you know. However, you know, it's, I don't know how to put it, you know, whether it seems justified or not for a country to base their laws around, you know, what, you know, loot boxes is, you know, or what they are, or like, you know, whether they deem, you know, Overwatch or like, you know, CSGO to be in violation of that. The main takeaway is that it is still their laws. And it's like in any market, you know, when you, for instance, like if I go overseas, you know, and I don't know, spit on the ground, you know, in a country that deems that illegal, you know, I'm going to go to jail. Whereas that's ridiculous from where I'm from, you know, to be jailed for. But you have to follow laws in other countries. And so these games
totally.
in the Belgian market, at least, Overwatch, you know, and Battlefront 2, and these games are in violation of their codes. EA is not wanting to, they're fighting Belgium, you know, in Belgium about their own laws.
Yeah, no,
which is not going to help.
Yeah, this is where like the double standard part comes in, because like, well, I think loot boxes themselves can be, if like done well, can be okay, you know, and I think that businesses should have that right, like if they're doing it properly. In this case, fuck EA. I hope they fucking get taken to like task about this shit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Overwatch and like other places, other games like that do their loot box system like in a reasonable way. You know, it's not, you know, even like from the sort of like meta analysis of loot boxes, like items, like getting loot items from loot boxes that don't affect the gameplay. You know what I mean? They just are more cosmetic. I think that's something that should always be kind of encouraged. Or if it does affect the gameplay, it shouldn't be a pay to win, as often gets kind of brought up. And EA, their practices are just very transparent. They're in it for the money, and they don't care what it costs. Even if it costs their fandom or the integrity of their intellectual property. They just don't care. And until, like I said at the onset of this, until they get fucking broken up and destroyed and, had their backs broken over the knee of Belgium or whoever, they're not going to learn.
Well, and I think a very simple fix to this, if EA wants to avoid having to deal with a lawsuit, from Belgium or being taken to court, they're trying to obviously fight this tooth and nail, like they don't want this to happen. Well, then don't sell your games in the Belgian market. I know it's easier said than done. I know they lose a lot of money that way, but it's like that's really what happens. I mean, I have a personal example from this, an MMO that I played for the better part of 4 years. It had a data center in North America, split between Canada and the United States. It had a data center in Europe, pretty much all of Western Europe, a data center specifically for Japan, and then about halfway through the game's life, I want to say 2.5, 3 years in, they opened up the market for Chinese players. So they had a data center or just actually not a data center, a specific server for Chinese players. Well, the Chinese server worked completely different than all of the other data centers. Like, there were rules in the way that the game operated that were completely changed just based on the fact a communist oligarchy, it has very specific laws in place that would counteract or that would contradict the way that the game normally runs, like certain outfits they deem to be illegal within the game. I know it's stupid, but it's still their laws. And even the an MMO being a paid subscription model, their paid subscription model was completely different. So for every other server on every other data center, it was a monthly model. You pay $12.99 per month, period. It's just a flat rate. Whereas that one server in China, you paid based on every minute that you played. Every minute that you were actively online cost you. So it's like the second you were done, it kind of forced Chinese players to try to gear up as fast as they possibly could and to accomplish content as fast as they possibly could and log off as quick as they could, But it's like I think Square Enix, and this is Final Fantasy 14, I think Square Enix still at least understood that, they have their own laws in place so if they want to sell that, they have to abide by it if that's the case. And I feel like EA needs to understand that here as well in Belgium.
Dude, that'd be so stressful.
Or just not sell, to their player base. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, dude, that'd be so stressful if you're on a I would always feel like I'm on a clock. You know what I mean? There would be nobody in the towns. Basically, they would all be nobody's sitting around dancing or memeing. They're like, motherfucker, I got better shit to do.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really toxic environment for a game created by the developers.
So, obviously, Belgium sticking up for its laws is great. Do you think those laws should be applied anywhere else, or that we should see lawsuits anywhere else? I mean, obviously, we should think EA should be sued in literally every country in the world. But
I think so. I guess in my opinion, much like Derek said, the bottom line is Belgium's laws are Belgium's laws. I agree with you, like you said, that maybe they take it a bit too far with things like Overwatch, where obviously the loot boxes are not, they don't affect gameplay and you can't pay real money for them. But at the same time, I see where Belgium's coming from when they say that they're concerned that it is going to raise issues with gambling issues in use. I mean, bottom line is the loot boxes are designed to trigger that same response you get when you're gambling, that rush you get, the gambler's high. And it absolutely, I mean, it's been shown. There have been studies that have shown that loot boxes do give people that rush.
Yes.
So I think...
Is that bad, though?
Yes. Bottom
Well,
line.
but I mean, like,
there's
but then should it be outlawed? Like, should gambling be outlawed? Like,
I don't
it's
think-
just
no.
a form of entertainment.
I don't think
Like, as long
gambling
as-
should be outlawed. No.
Okay.
What I do think though is I don't think they should be used. I don't think they should be used to exploit children, which is bottom line what they're doing.
The children shouldn't be buying this shit anyway.
You're right. I agree. The children shouldn't be buying this shit anyway. But I mean,
They shouldn't have money.
They're
I
in
mean, like, if they.
games- They are in games like Overwatch. Again, I don't think Overwatch is the worst example, but it is still an issue. It's still,
Yeah, but I mean, like,
Consider
how are the kids buying it? I mean, like, this
they're
is
being
hold
bought
on,
by
yeah.
parents, and you're right.
Consider those 4 games. Consider those 4 games that back in April the Belgian Game Commission looked at. You know, that were in violation of the gambling legislation. Star Wars Battlefront 2, rated T. FIFA 2018, rated T. Overwatch, rated E. You know, CS:GO was the only one. Overwatch maybe rated T. CS:GO is the only one though that's rated mature. So going by that metric, you know, at least how the ESRB rates these games in the United States, I would imagine it's relatively the same rating in Belgium. That you're selling most of those games to kids. You know,
Well, yeah, but
you know.
You can't tell me that the kids are going on with their credit card and buying this shit. You know what I mean? It's like, where's the... I mean, it comes back to the whole, like, the same argument that we have with, like, people blaming violent video games for shit. And it's like, you know, or, like, they say, like, kids, or it's like, the question is, it's like, well, where are the fucking parents? You know?
No, I
like
agree.
Someone,
but I mean,
like,
I still
these
think
kids
that's-
should have been taught long before they ever even pick up the game. I mean, obviously, it's like we're kind of on this weird cusp. It's like the parents maybe didn't play video games as much and the kids want to play games, and so they just kind of let them play and they don't know what dangers they're exposing the kids to. But we're getting to a point now where it's like most of these parents are gamers themselves and they should take it on. I mean, and obviously loot boxes are like a more recent thing. Like they weren't as prevalent as they were until like the last 10 years or so, but like the parents ought to fucking know. Like they need to sit down with their kids and like explain this shit to them, you know? Or the kids shouldn't have a fucking credit card or any ability to buy this shit, you know? They shouldn't in the first place. So, I mean, I understand where they're coming from and how it can expose kids to those elements, but you have to give some responsibility to the parents.
No, I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not saying that it's not the parents are completely free of fault, but you know just as well as I do that's what's going to happen, and I don't think for a second that these developers don't know the same thing. They know that kids are playing these games, and they know that especially in terms of like Overwatch, the game is marketed, maybe not marketed towards children, but it certainly has an appeal in a younger audience. It's cartoony.
Yeah.
It's cartoony graphics. It's kind of goofy and fun. You cannot tell me for a second that these companies don't know what they're doing. That they're just completely. Oh, I didn't know kids were going to be playing this game.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. That's why I say, you know, especially in this case, fuck EA. I hope they get sued for $5 trillion. And kids are, you know, I will say this. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Like, you know, these kids aren't like fucking going on to Battlefront and being like, oh, I don't need to get an XP booster. Blah. They know that shit better than the fucking parent. Kids, when they play a game, they know a game better. Like I'll be playing like Dota, and there'll be like a 14-year-old kid who's like 10 times better than me, even though I'm like, you know, almost 50 years his senior. And it's like, because kids know what they're doing. I mean, more often than not, they're just not developed to make to have the proper decision making, like especially around stuff like this. And that's, I think, where the parents should step in. But you're absolutely right. The companies know what what they're doing. So
No, there's definitely a fair amount of evidence at this point that that kids can definitely be exploited for things like you know, additional purchases, you know, microtransactions in any given form that may take. Like Jesus Christ, I remember that the game Skylanders that came out back in like, I want to say like 2011. My friend's little brothers were obsessed with it. And you know, if you guys don't know what it is, it's essentially a game completely catered to kids, where you know, when you buy the game, there's like I forgot what console released on. It might have been the PS3. In fact, I think I think it was either the Wii or the PS3. And there's like this little portal thing that it comes with that's kind of similar to like how the little me, I guess, characters or whatever that. Well, anyway, there's like this little portal that it comes with, and there are like the additional like Skylanders, and they oh my god, like at least 50 to 70 of them. When the game like first launched, will go for like 30 to 60 bucks a pop, and like so these kids are like constantly trying to get their parents to buy them from like Toys R Us or from whatever, because then they can take that model back to their house and put it on this little platform, and it just kind of gets put into the game, and from there it's like, I mean, one game, like you would have bought a $50 game, and all of a sudden it's like you dumped the better part of like 350 to like 500 bucks in it as a kid over the course of some months, just because that's like kids can definitely be exploited for like their impulse nature when it comes to things that they want in terms of purchasing. And so it's like when you implement a system like loot boxes into games that are rated E or rated T, what you're more or less saying is, I know that the main demographic, or I know that the target demographic for this game are children, but I'm going to attempt to make more money off of this game, by the form of gambling, where they are going to have to continuously be putting money into this to try to get something that, which they definitely will. It's like they knew what they were doing.
Then maybe I should let me frame maybe the discussion a little bit like this. Like, if you were crowned king of Derikia or Jeremia, what do you think the rules, like if you had the power to just like snap your finger and make the law, what do you think the law should be?
That I get to piss on EA every day.
That sounds like a fantastic law. All right, I guess me in particular, the way I would implement this sort of law, I much like you said, I probably wouldn't outright ban loot boxes entirely. Now I would mandate that a loot box is an automatic M rating.
Yes.
I would also mandate that loot boxes, after you have an item, there is no chance for that loot box or for that item to show up in a loot box again for you. Overwatch.
So Dota does a very similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where they used to have like regular loot boxes, but now in Dota, basically the loot boxes that come out is basically like if there's like 11 cosmetic sets, you get one, and then in the rotation when you roll it again, that you have 0%, like you have no chance of getting that cosmetic again.
Yep, and that's fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Like I said, I just there are games, and I mean, Overwatch I know is an example where you can absolutely get a roll of cosmetic that you already have. I've had it happen to me several times. It's an incredibly frustrating experience. But I don't think that should be allowed, because basically, especially if money is going to be involved, if you're going to pay for a loot box, I don't think that basically, bottom line is it's gambling. I guess even going as far as to say, like, if
but it's a weird version of gambling, because you do get something.
I mean, not if you're getting a cosmetic that you already have.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. If we change the law so that like you always got a different cosmetic, or that if you're able to sell those cosmetics on like a market, you know what I mean?
It's a weird form of gambling, but I mean, ultimately, I say that it's you're splitting hairs at this point. It's still, like I said, it's still triggering that same response. It's designed to sucker people who have that natural inclination to seek that gambler's high. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's an exploitative system. Regardless,
I think when it comes down to it, like, we'll just kind of, I guess, answering your question, Reed, like, on how I would do this, like, if I guess I had control of this system, like, I wouldn't be entirely unfair about it. Like, I would do essentially what Jeremy is saying that he would do in that case. Like, you know, I would limit it strictly. I would not make it illegal by any means. I feel that loot boxes are completely legal within their rights to be able to exist. Just like you can go to a casino and lose a fuck ton of money on the slot machine, you know, attempting to make something, you know, bigger, attempting to, you know, come out with a net positive. You can end up losing a lot of money. You know, I feel like it's more or less the same system, but if we're going to transition that into gaming, and I mean, they already have, you know, since, I mean, for at least the past like 10 years. But I feel that if you're going to responsibly transition that into gaming, you have to regulate it the same way. So you have to, you know, ask yourself, okay, well, how do they do, you know, gambling in general out in the real world, well, outside of gaming? You know, you go to a gas station and you pick up, you know, a state lottery ticket. Well, can you do that unless you're 18? No. Okay, going to the casino, you know, going to the boat or whatever, like, you know, they won't even let you in unless you're 21, mainly because of alcohol. But even if it wasn't alcohol, if alcohol weren't involved, it would be still 18, you know?
So we do need to protect the kids. No, that's a really good idea, is if that there's like an age gate or something like that.
Right, so it doesn't exist in kid games, or, you know, rated E or rated T games. And when it does exist in rated M games, I still feel like it's responsible to at least label it on the back of the box. Like, you know, Absolutely. If you look at the back of a video game box, or like within the requirements, you know, it'll tell you, you know, really mundane details that you don't even think to care about, but just for the sake of labeling, you know, what the game is comprised of, you know, they do that legally to cover their asses. So they'll say, okay, it's only one player, you know, 2 to 4 network players, you know, this much memory, you know, whatever. It'll give you all of the mundane details, the system requirements if you're playing on PC. I feel like it could just go right back there on the back of the box, like, you know, includes gambling. As simple as that. It doesn't have to be blown up in incredible font to try to shame them. It's just like, let it be known, let it, you know, be honest with what the content of your product, you know, includes. And I'm completely just in rated games, and then you have your system, and nobody can really shame you for it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that, absolutely. I mean, as it stands now, though, with EA, I mean, they're clearly defying Belgium's laws. They're trying to fight this. Belgium has made it explicitly clear what they expect from a game developer. They have made it explicitly clear that loot boxes of any kind are not allowed, regardless of whether or not they cost money, whether or not you don't have the chance of getting an item every time you roll. Bottom line is, it's illegal, and EA is fighting this, and they're trying to say that their loot box, for whatever reason, doesn't fall under that law. And I mean, I don't know how they think that's going to work out for them. I don't know if they're under the impression that people are just are just going to nod their heads and go, I mean, not even that, because they already know that Belgium's planning on fighting them. And their law is clear. I mean, the law is clear. Like, Belgium, the state of Belgium is going to win this. They're going to find the evidence, because the evidence is right there in front of them. I don't know. Maybe EA thinks that they have enough resources they can just continue to throw lawyers at the problem until it goes away. Which I guarantee you, they don't have the GDP of an entire nation. Like, I'm not sure what their angle is. The only thing I can attribute this to is the same thing. I mean, I've accused EA of this a million times. It's arrogance. They think that they own the world, and they can get away with whatever they want to get away with because they're EA and because they have a shitload of money. I really think this actually, I honestly think that if they win this, it actually does set a really bad precedent
I think so.
for other companies, because it's going to show that, especially if it becomes a thing where they actually are able to just throw lawyers at the problem until it goes away, it's going to show that large companies have the capability to push around and bully fucking nations.
Well, and a lot like, the law that basically set precedent in the United States that said that corporations were now legally considered to have the rights of individuals. I think EA is going to attempt to, my theory is that if they get taken to court, EA is going to attempt to do the same thing with the definition of gambling. They're going to try to finesse the court into being able to see or to redefine what it means, or to be able to state, even though this looks like, gambling, smells like gambling, feels like gambling, it's actually not at all. And be able to, kind of like you said, with, enough, Harvard lawyers on the retainer, they could probably make it work. And that's going to set a horrible precedent.
I mean, this is straight up, this is, hold on, I'm gonna put my Alex Jones hat on for a second. It's like, dude, this is like the plot of like a dystopian, like cyberpunk setting. Like this is how those corporations come into power. They just start pushing nations around, and they start going, no, we're gonna throw money at this until it goes away. Like,
and redrawing the lines in the sand.
Yeah. It's really scary. I don't know that it's going to get that bad, but it's at least like encroaching on that territory. In terms of like what EA is trying to do.
The fact that they haven't caved to Belgium's laws within their own country, within that market that they're selling to, like Blizzard and Valve and like 2K Games did, it kind of insinuates that that they're about to do this, that they're going to try to convince the courts that this really is not gambling at all, which, God forbid they win, because then you know what that means.
Oh, Jesus. Blade Runner was a cautionary tale, wasn't it? Oh, man. Yeah, no, it's a really scary thing. EA, I don't know how it's going to go. It entirely depends on how Belgium's. I mean, honestly, I don't know what Belgium's legal system is like. I don't know if they're going to be able to, like in an American court, where they can just continue to ask for retrial after retrial until they bankrupt the people who are going against them, or if this is just going to be one of those things where it's going to go through. I mean, like I said, they have the evidence. It's not hard to prove that EA has loot boxes in their games, and it's not hard to prove that that is illegal under Belgian law. So I don't know. I guess it depends on how the Belgian legal system works.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, so now that I'm looking at it, and not that, mainly because I was more or less curious, not that it would turn into just who has more than the next, but Belgium's GDP, just to give an idea as to the total, not that they'd be dumping their GDP into a single lawsuit with, EA, obviously, they're not going to just liquidate the whole country to support this, but...
Man, I'd have a lot of respect for them if they did, though. That would be hilarious.
Just their country is a shell from having to lawyer fees and shit.
Just so they could bitch slap EA down.
Yeah, no. So EA's total valuation or their revenue is 5.5 or 5.1 billion US dollars as of 2018, and Belgium has 466 billion in GDP. So, like the state of Belgium, go ahead. You're probably not gonna, at least, out-finance them in this. So,
well, they're not gonna commit their whole GDP.
Yeah,
that'd be so fucking funny. It's fucking EA corrupts Belgium.
Like a piece of that, yeah.
That'd be funny.
But even a piece of what they have is going to be like outlawyer EA. So I don't know.
EA. Michael.
We'll see.
All right, I think I've gotten my daily dose.
How about like a happier topic?
Yeah. I think I've got my dose of talking shit on EA.
I'm gonna pull up my notes.
All right.
So, you guys know what Nintendo Direct is, right?
Let's pretend I don't.
Okay. Well, a Nintendo Direct is think of it sort of like like an annual miniature E3, but only for Nintendo stuff.
Okay.
And so while they do announce some stuff at E3, a lot of times some really big announcements come out of their Nintendo Direct. This year, unfortunately, they had to delay their Nintendo Direct due to the earthquake that happened, and so we kind of got some weird, awkward pre-announcements. Basically, they must have had like agreements or whatnot with the companies involved to announce. So to announce their games, or that some stuff got leaked. But then the official Nintendo Direct happened, and we got to see those announcements as they were intended. And oh boy, they announced a fucking lot. I finally got around to it today to read through the whole thing. And I didn't go and watch the entire stream, although I did see like a couple things. But it is quite a lot. Before I get started, what would you say is probably the biggest criticism of the Nintendo Switch right now?
Biggest criticism, honestly, I would say is their library. There's just not a whole lot on there that interests me. Breath of the Wild and Smash Bros. Are about the only two things that I see on the Switch library that I'm like, this is what I want to play.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like the biggest criticism of the Switch, at least back then, I'm not sure if it's still the case now, but it was the accessibility to the console in general. There weren't enough units sold for, based on the demand. I don't know, is that still the case?
No, they've sold a ton of Switches. It's been a very successful console, I would say.
Oh well, absolutely. But I'm saying that they didn't sell enough versus everybody who wanted one. Like they only initially came out with like a certain batch of units, and so everybody was kind of like, everybody who didn't get their hands on one initially when they got sold out was like, fuck, I gotta buy one secondhand. It's like, is somebody selling on
Oh
eBay?
no, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, they've rectified that problem.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but the most common complaint I hear is just that, there's just a lack of titles. And there's just a lack of, content, a lack of games. There's like the games that are on it are fucking great. But that they're just, just too few. And they definitely went a long way to rectify it, because man, this was like game after game after game. So just kind of like starting on the Nintendo Direct, I'll talk about a couple of the side stuff first. So it's like they had some announcement for the 3DS. So they announced a lot of basically like remakes or updated versions of previous games and ports. So Kirby's Epic Yarn was coming to the 3DS, Bowser's Inside Story, which I guess is a new game, as well as a couple other 3DS titles. But they're getting into
there were a lot of Final Fantasy ports, like Final Fantasy 7, 9, 10, 10, 2, 12, like they're all getting ported over.
Oh yeah. So starting at the top of it, I've got like they announced a third Luigi's Mansion, and they had a trailer for that, and it looks super cute, as Luigi does when he's terrified. But he's a brave boy, so he's gonna go and he's gonna save that mansion for a third time.
So yeah, that's the only one I did see anything about, and man, do I love Luigi's Mansion. So like that actually might sell the console for me.
To go along with it, they also announced a remaster of Luigi's Mansion 1 for the 3DS that's going to have multiplayer, apparently. So yeah, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Bowser's Inside Story. They are making an updated version of New Super Mario Bros., which is like their traditional side-scrolling Mario platform, but they're bringing that to the Switch, and they added some extra characters, and I'm assuming that they're also adding new levels and things like that. So they're adding that. They're doing a Katamari Damacy remaster, and they're bringing that to the Switch. I was a huge fan of that game when it was on the PlayStation. They talked a lot about Nintendo's online services, where people are going to have like online saves and whatnot, and it's sort of like a subscription-based service.
So,
and it's only about $4 a month.
I was going to stop you there for a second because, like you said, it's $4 a month. This is the only thing that I really have heard a lot about, and that's this online save system. And I've actually heard there's a bit of a stink about it.
Yeah, I was going to come back to that, but I guess I'll just clear up. There's in the Q&A portion of that, because cloud saves are going to be a very important part of this. There was a question that basically made it clear that if your subscription lapsed and to this service, that they would not keep your cloud saves for the games that you were playing, which is pretty harsh. The subscription service that PlayStation and Microsoft have, they allow you to, if you break off your subscription and you come back to it 3 months later, your cloud saves will still exist. Where it looks like in Nintendo, they will not be kept. They haven't commented on this yet, but there is a stink about that. The other thing is that you won't be able to, your digital purchases can't be changed. Oh, let me look it up. Your digital purchases can't be separated from your your online account will now be permanently linked to your Switch profile, which makes sense because they're opening up the with a new update, because that's going to be the update that adds the online service. So those are the two things that were kind of a little bit of a stink about.
Are you at all worried about the security of things being on the iCloud now, or cloud-based service?
I mean, I always, but
because you remember what happened with the fapping.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the fapping, everybody's nude leaked photos and shit. It's obviously that's not gonna happen with the Switch, but
I think that's always going to be a concern. I think if you ever really do have really important information, you should always encrypt it before you store stuff on the cloud. But for this Nintendo stuff, it's they're going to know how many coins I got in Mario? There's not a huge vulnerability there.
Just in terms of your account information, maybe if you have credit cards tied to it. I'm not sure what personal information is going to be necessarily tied to the account.
Yeah, those risks exist with literally every other online platform. I don't think there's going to be... the risks that you're going to be exposed to here are the ones that you were already exposed to before, because chances are you already had your payment information stored with Nintendo to make purchasing easier, or you have your payment information stored with other places. So it's just one of those things. You have to keep an eye on your credit, be aware that you are at risk of having your credit card information stolen, and never put your social security information in an available spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't trust. I don't trust Sony because I just don't trust Sony.
Oh yeah, but they've got such a great track record of digital security.
Yeah. It's great a track record of security as Yahoo.
Mm-hmm. They announced a new NES style controller for the Switch, which looks pretty cool. They literally look like little mini NES controllers, and they can be attached on the side.
I saw that.
I'm gonna post it here in the. Oop, that's not the thing. There's general. And paste.
All right.
And there you go.
Oh, those are adorable.
Yeah, I know, and you can also put them on the side too. To charge and whatnot, but yeah, that's I thought those are really, really cool.
Yeah, those are.
Let's see. Hey, that little tiny indie title called Pokemon?
Oh yeah, no, never heard of that game.
Yeah, well, it's pretty big apparently, and they liked making video games so much they are now finally making a game that isn't Pokemon.
Really?
It's gonna be an RPG. It has a really great title. It's called Town. That is a working title, by the way. But it looks, I mean, it's a cute little dude. He's running around. It looks like a kind of sort of Zelda style RPG. I'm maybe like Zelda style art. Well, here, I'll grab the screen grab. And I'll post it here so you can see. There's a trailer that was posted to that.
Yeah, it looks very Zelda inspired.
But it's going to be an RPG, so I'm super happy. Game Freak has made, Game Freak. You can maybe argue that they haven't evolved a lot as a game developer. I mean, they've all evolved quite a bit, but it's like their games are kind of like the same thing, which I get. It's like Pokemon's great. Why screw it up by changing it too much? So hopefully we'll see them really change something here and make something new and exciting.
See, I'm a big fan of that art style. It actually reminds me quite a bit of, I mean, like you said, it's Zelda. Specifically, it reminds me of Zelda Wind Waker, which was my favorite. Was my favorite Zelda title.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Hey,
I'm gonna go out on a limb though and say that Pikachu's gonna make a cameo in this game.
Oh, probably.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Dude, that little motherfucker is so cute. I'd put him on everything.
Man, anytime somebody mentions him, I can just feel all the money coming out of my wallet.
Hey, they've got a new Pokemon RPG coming to the Switch that's got like it's Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. That's supposed to be coming out soon. So it's based on the Pokemon Yellow, and then it's like they're gonna do another version, but it's like Eevee, so it's like Pokemon Brown, and it's like I don't know, it's really cool. So that's coming out. They announced that a while back. They didn't really talk too much about that at the Direct, but because they've had announcements leading up to this. But anyway, continuing on. Hey, do you guys remember a little old game called SimCity?
Oh man,
Yes.
I can't even pretend that I don't know this game because I love SimCity.
Do you remember how much it sucked because they sucked the life out of it and made it always online and try to make it like The Sims and make you pay like $1 million for it?
I try to repress those memories mostly.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite games that came out on Steam about 2 or 3 years ago called City Skylines, and it's basically everything SimCity was supposed to be, made by great developers that actually just cared about their community or whatnot. Fantastic game on the Steam. I've put so many hours into it, but hey, it's coming to the Switch, and guess what? You can get it today. Such a great, I mean, if you've ever liked SimCity at all, City Skylines is just so satisfying as like a city simulator, and it's coming to the Switch, so that makes me really happy. Hey, speaking of other great ports of games that I liked, Civilization 6 is also coming to the Switch. That was one of the things that got leaked a little bit before the actual Nintendo Direct, but yeah, so now you can get just one more turn on the Switch. Do you guys ever play Civilization at all?
I know a couple of people who were really big into it.
Yeah, really big game. I like Civilization 6. It has it changed a lot from Civ 5. Civ 5 was a really great game. Civ 6 made a lot of different changes, some of which were controversial or whatnot. But I really liked it. It was definitely a good game. Going on with my notes, yes. Now I've got there's a million different Final Fantasy ports. Let's see, they've got, I don't know if there's a port or a new game or whatnot. It's called Final Fantasy Maxima.
I believe that is a new game. At least I'm aware of that.
Like a game
Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age, is coming to the Switch. They've also got 7, 9, and 10, which I'm wondering where the hell is Final Fantasy 8? But so basically everything like Final Fantasy 7 and on is coming. Up to Final Fantasy 12 is coming to the Switch. Apparently they are all remasters. That's what this says.
Interesting.
And those are all.
Yeah. It's kind of surprising to me that they decided to go with 9. Yeah, because 9 is nowhere near as popular as 8. Like, I get 7 and 10 because those were arguably the most popular titles in the series, at least like post NES. But yeah, Final Fantasy 9. I mean, that Final Fantasy 9 is my favorite. Don't get me wrong, but I understand that it's nowhere near as popular as 8. So.
See, was it? I mean, I don't remember a whole lot of people talking about how 8 was like the really good one.
8 sold really well back on the PS1. I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with just the traction that 7 had set. You know, 7 was just, and you could argue that 7 was only really as big as it was because it was kind of like the introduction into like the new era of consoles. I mean, with all the like tech increases that went with like
3D graphics, particle effects. Yep.
Because Final Fantasy VI, you know, was completely 8-bit bird's eye view. It was just, you know, and they went from that to, you know, Final Fantasy VII, which was just like, holy shit. So it sold really well, and I think the hype continued into Final Fantasy VIII because it was like, and then Final Fantasy IX kind of took a step backwards, and it was like no longer like a, not like, I guess technology wise, but it kind of was a reanimate. It was like an animation version of the Final Fantasy games, that they haven't had that since the earlier ones. You know what I mean? It wasn't really based around real human-looking characters. It was kind of more artsy and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, no, it was a huge paradigm shift.
Right.
And then you know, they also had a new announcement for Smash Brothers, Jeremy.
Yeah.
They announced a new character.
What is the new character? Actually, I haven't heard about this.
Isabelle. She was your main assistant in the most recent Animal Crossing. She was like kind of your vector for making changes or whatnot. You'd be like, "Hey, Isabelle." She'd be like, "Oh, we need this," and you'd be like, "All right, let's go do it." She's like this cute little dog lady. And yeah, she's coming to Smash Bros, which is like weird because it's like the whole like Smash Bros thing is very aggressive, and like Animal Crossing as an IP is very like super chill and very cutesy wootsy and like making friends. So I guess Isabelle's gonna be making friends with her fists or whatnot. I can't wait to see how this plays out.
I mean, that's how I typically make friends.
Yep. You know, just the classic strategy. You gotta beat them up and then they like you.
That's what I say. If you can't join them, beat them, right?
That's why I have no friends, because I can't beat anybody up. And then the last major announcement, speaking of Animal Crossing, is a new Animal Crossing, which they kind of did like a whole Metroid, where they didn't show anything or do anything other than just showing the title of it and then saying 2019. So, but Animal Crossing, super huge title. I'm not sure if you guys play a lot of it, but for a lot of people, it's a very big deal. It's basically there's going to be this generation of Animal Crossing, and I'm excited to see what they do because they've slowly been adding different things to Animal Crossing, like making it a different, more evolved game. And I hope that because it's on this really cool, versatile platform, that maybe they'll make a lot of changes, because I feel like the gameplay was not like stagnant, but it's like the design of it could use like a paradigm shift or something like that. But so yeah, a ton of different announcements, a ton of different and then there's like even more stuff. Diablo 3 is coming to the Switch. Let's see. There's Yoshi. Where'd it go? There's a new Yoshi game. There's going to be a ton of digital board games, including Munchkin, Catan, Pandemic. There's like a Lord of the Rings card game, and just a bunch of different things that are like look really, really cool. Chocobo Mystery Dungeon is another.
Brief side note. I actually really like how open the Nintendo has been recently with kind of M-rated games and allowing more darker games on their console. I mean, they put Doom on their console for fun.
Yeah, Warframe, which is another like it's another big game that's also, you know, very violent or whatnot. I think it's because Nintendo's finally starting to realize that a lot of their audience is older than the age of 12.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still making a lot of great kids games, and honestly, it's like I wish I had a lot more time to go and play a lot of these things. Like Super Mario Odyssey was obviously like an amazing game, and a lot of these great Nintendo games like look really, really good. Yeah. So, and I think there are a lot of maybe some other side games that I haven't that I might have missed. But yeah, Nintendo just came out swinging, I think, as far as games, man. Which really, really, I think is exciting because it really gives more legs to this console, which I think is kind of always, I mean, more recently has suffered from the fact that it's, because of its processing power, it's excluded, I think, from a lot of the games that are being put on like Xbox One and PS4. So it feels almost kind of like this weird sort of outlier in the console market because it's so different than PC or most other console gaming. And that it's finally going to sort of like come into its own. So
of that, yeah, like you said, massive list of games, because like, holy crap, that is a lot to be coming all out at once. Of that huge list, what is the one that you're looking most forward to?
Shoot. I really, really, really like City Skylines, but I already play that game a lot on Steam. Obviously, Smash Brothers is going to be like a really, really great game. I do want to see what the RPG made by Game Freak will be like, and that's coming out in 2019. I have actually, this is a small confession, I've never played a Final Fantasy game in any major sense, so I'm looking forward.
Really?
I know.
Surprises me.
So I really am interested in maybe using this opportunity to kind of go back and play a lot of those games that I just never got a chance to.
Yeah, if they properly remaster 7, I think you're really going to enjoy that for a first play.
Yeah, but I think the thing I'm really going to get maybe excited about is going to be Animal Crossing, because I wasn't a big I liked Animal Crossing like a little bit, and I played it quite a bit when I was way younger, but then I kind of gave up on it because I grew up and I became the jilted old man. But then I played Stardew Valley, and it reopened my love for being, that sort of like cutesy wootsy building a community sort of thing. And so now I'm excited to play it again. I missed out on the last Animal Crossing because I never had a Wii or a Wii U or a 3DS. And so now I can finally hop back into it and maybe get that same sort of feel-goodness that I got so much from Stardew Valley. So, yeah, I think that's going to be my pick. What about you guys?
I am definitely looking forward to Town, the Game Freak RPG.
Yeah, which I hope they get a better name, because I almost kind of want them to keep that name just because it is like so weird. But
it's
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's definitely very.
I just want to see what it's about.
Well, absolutely. Just on that screenshot alone, I'm already interested to see what's going on with it. I want to see, because I love that art style. Maybe it's just because Wind Waker was my first Zelda, but just like that cel shaded, like kind of goofy art style is. I'm just in love with it now. And to see that in what appears to be, at least from that screenshot, like an action RPG, that's definitely the kind of thing that I want to.
I posted the trailer link in the Discord, so you can get a much better look at it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got like a very interesting art style, but it also looks like it'll actually have like some really good serious RPG elements.
Yeah, but I think the one that I'm looking forward to is going to be Luigi's Mansion. Like, I loved the original Luigi's Mansion. Loved the second one.
I didn't know they made a second one. when they said there was a third one, I was surprised that they. I mean, they're not surprised because the first one was like really really good, but
Yeah, no, I believe it was. I remember it was on the GameCube.
I think it released with the GameCube. If I recall correctly, it released with it.
No, that was 3DS. That's right, because I had to borrow someone else's 3DS to play it. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. And since nobody heard about any game that was ever on the 3DS, which is a shame because the 3DS has a good, has a respectable library. But yeah, no, it's I mean, really, Luigi's Mansion is. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Luigi. Always have been. Not as much as I am a fan of Wario, but I love Luigi.
Wario.
Just something about it. Just something about the stinky onion, man, makes me so happy.
Stinky onion, man. Such a great description. Yeah.
Yes,
So yeah,
step
Nintendo's.
one, buy a Switch.
Yeah, no joke.
That's what I have to do. Yeah, that's my step one, buy a Switch.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to hit up my friend who owns a Switch and pester him until he gives me his.
Give me your Switch.
Exactly. Anyway, I think unless there's anything specific you want to talk about those games, I think that's gonna wrap it up for us.
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for me.
All right. In that case, thank you guys so much for watching the Not Important Gaming Podcast with Jeremy, Reed, and Derek. If you are interested in following us, please go ahead and hit that follow button. Also, you can find our YouTube link down at the bottom of the screen. Just click on Doom Guy's face, and it'll take you there. Subscribe to that. I try to upload videos as frequently as I can, but I've got a very busy schedule. I've actually got 2 videos scheduled to upload next week to kind of get us caught up. I try to get them up as soon as the VOD goes down on Twitch, although the last video was delayed, unfortunately. That being said, they are a little higher quality. I've gotten music on those. And all around,
Look at you.
all around, it is a better experience, I think, just because you've got something to fill dead air when we're looking things up. Other than that, like I said, please go
I
ahead.
saw that Dark Souls. Really quick.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, that was. I was impressed with myself finishing that boss off first time. This is actually, I guess it's not my first time playing Dark Souls 3, but it is my first time playing Dark Souls 3 by myself, not having anybody functionally carrying me through the game. So, yeah, no, I was happy with that. But yeah, other than that, we're live here on Twitch at twitch.tv/ubaralook. That is UBARALOOK. I'll repeat that. That is twitch.tv/ubaralook. UBARALOOK. You can find us here at 11:30 Central Time on Sunday nights. And I think that just about does it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a wonderful night.
Love you.
There you go.